What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today, or yesterday for some of us, we did obviously receive the cooperation update in Battlefront 2, which included Felucia for capital supremacy, clone commandos, instant action, co-op, and a lot of different little bug fixes and changes as well. And so I did just want to give my first impressions on the update overall. Now, obviously, first impressions are a little bit hard to judge. Most of the time that I do make these videos, I'm always really happy with it initially, and then a few days in, we do find some new bugs and stuff like that. So if you're watching this in a few days, just keep that in mind. But from my playtime tonight, I didn't really experience any new bugs or anything like that. So anyway, starting off with probably the biggest addition, that being Felucia for capital supremacy, instant action, and co-op. And I've got to say, yet again, DICE have absolutely nailed this one. I never really doubted them on this, as from our experience with all the maps in the game, as well as the additions of Geonosis and the CS maps, they really do seem to get these maps down pat each and every time. They seem to be really great when it comes to their map design and just all the details that they put into the map. So overall, I am definitely pretty happy with Felucia so far. The layout really is unique from most of the other maps in the game. It's a lot more spread out, and there are just a lot of different little pathways and choke points rather than just sort of having a few main areas. So from only a couple of games so far, it really seems to play pretty well in terms of the layout, and you can definitely tell it's been made for CS when you compare it to some maps like Commando and Kashyyyk, which are obviously a little bit more linear. Not only that, but just all the details that they've put into it as well just really helps sell the immersion and the overall design of the map. It's really pretty insane how much effort must have gone into making these maps, and yeah, overall it gets a pretty massive tick from me so far when it comes to both the layout and just the overall design. If there is one thing about the map that I'm really not happy with, it's that it's not being added to Galactic Assault, or at least not yet anyway, as I don't think they have really confirmed that it won't be at some point down the line. GA is in serious need of some new content, and in my opinion that's mostly new maps, so the fact that they're not adding Felucia as of right now is a little bit frustrating, as just all the effort they've put into this map is really only going to be seen by half the player base, as I think it's fair to say that a majority, or at least a large chunk of the player base, does still prefer Galactic Assault. Like I said, overall I'm definitely pretty pleased with Felucia. It looks and feels absolutely spot on, but I do also hope that they do add it to GA at some point in the future. Moving on now to the clone commandos, and again I am pretty damn happy with these guys so far, although again it might change with some more playtime, as the same sort of thing did happen with the droidicas as well. In terms of the looks, again DICE never really seems to fall short in terms of their graphics and the player models. I'm really happy with their look, and other than adding some skins for them, it's really not much there that I can expect to be any different. As for how they play, their blaster seems like a lot of fun so far. Personally, I did have just a little bit of trouble getting used to it, as I'm just not all that good with the heavy weapons, which this one is pretty similar to, but at the same time I can't really complain. Their abilities overall seem really good. I do love their grenade launcher ability, and the repulsor blast does seem like a pretty good way to survive against enemy heroes or reinforcements, but the only downside is that I do think their middle ability is just slightly too strong, and I hope it gets just a really slight nerf in the coming weeks, as I think it might become a little bit too strong once people get the hang of it. It could definitely be worse, and it's actually not as bad as I thought it would be when I first heard the description, but I do think it may eventually need to be toned down just ever so slightly. Overall, the commandos seem pretty decent so far. It's really hard to give my thoughts on the balancing as of right now, because I just haven't played enough to know whether they're good, bad, or broken, but I definitely haven't seen any bugs so far, and they're a lot of fun to use, so overall it is definitely getting a tick from me. Now moving on to the new game modes, those being instant action and co-op, and what you're seeing on screen is just from the instant action mode, and overall I think it is a really nice addition to the game. For me personally, I'll probably barely ever play this mode just because I'm a multiplayer guy and I just prefer the other modes, but I actually think this is probably one of the best additions to the game since launch, as it does cater for a massive chunk of the player base. There are obviously those who maybe don't have internet connections on their consoles, or maybe they're too young and their parents don't let them play online or something like that. Whatever the reason may be, I really think this adds another layer to the game, and like I said, personally I'll probably barely ever touch it, but I am definitely glad to see it finally being added. It also sees the addition of AI heroes and villains, and overall the AI just is much better now as well, and that's something that again is going to make a huge difference for those offline players. For a long time now the AI has been pretty damn terrible, so for this to be changed around and improved, I think that's definitely a really big step in the right direction. Now, speaking of the AI, they are also available in the new 4-player co-op mode, where you and 3 friends or even 3 randoms can team up and fight with a bunch of AI teammates against an entire team of AI enemies. And again, similar to instant action, I think this is a really nice addition, and overall I am glad that it has been added to the game. Now, if I did have to give one bit of criticism about this mode, I do think that it is a little bit generic, and after a few games on each map, it is going to become very repetitive and most likely see the player base drop off really quickly. The objectives are all just pretty basic. It's almost a mix of GA and CS in that there are just a bunch of phases, and for each phase you do have to capture a command post to push on, and like I said, I think that will get really boring after a few games. If I could have it my way, I personally would love to see some more realistic and story-driven objectives. Things like on G Gnosis in Galactic Assault, for example, having to power up the ATTE before you can move on, then having to walk it to a certain area and protect it along the way and stuff like that. Having some actual objectives to do, all of which make up a little storyline of the map. I think that it'd add a lot more depth and therefore probably make it a lot more enjoyable over a longer period. Overall, I can't really complain. I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would, honestly, and like I said, I'm not going to be playing it all that often anyway, so I'm not really too bothered, but like I said, I do think it could benefit from just a bit more depth and some story-driven objectives. Now, lastly, there were just a few little changes I wanted to talk about before I head off, and the main one was the damage reduction change, where it actually now indicates when you're shooting at someone who has damage reduction. I actually really like this change, and even though it is only small, I actually think this is probably one of my favourite changes from the whole update. It kind of indicates if it's worth shooting at that enemy or not, and I think that will help a lot in terms of picking your fight, so this one definitely gets a tick from me. But anyway guys, that is going to do it for this one. I know it was a little shorter than normal, but I didn't want to drag on my thoughts too much. Overall, I am definitely happy so far with the update. A new reinforcement and a completely new map is pretty great on its own, and then to get the offline stuff as well is a really nice addition. So overall, I am definitely pleased with the update. If you did enjoy this one guys, then make sure to leave a like down below to help support the channel. I will be making a Clone Commando guide over the coming days, as well as a Clone Commando Mythbusters episode as well, so keep your eyes peeled for those ones, and if you do have anything you want tested, then don't hesitate to leave a comment down below. If you are new to the channel, then feel free to subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss out on any more Battlefront 2 videos or live streams. Thank you all so much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.